his name up in lights. Don Miller is live every Thursday night. He's bold, he's real, no filters, no shade. When hits the mic, the truth gets laid. Don's in the building, his swag so tight. Check your feelings, he's exposing all the lies. Every Thursday at 8, his voice takes the stage. The man's got soul like a record with age.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Don Miller Show, Thursday night Don Miller Show. Again, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, that's where you can find us. I'm so excited today because I am at the studio where I had some of my favorite all-time best broadcasts, best conversations. You're going to hear a couple of guys who I've been doing this with for a long time, one of them being Gonzo. If you follow the Don Miller radio show, you remember Gonzo Thursdays on the Don Miller show for a long time.
Great time.
And JB, what's up, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Glad to be back.
It's great to have younger people in the studio to have conversations like this. Man, I'm so excited about it. I got so much to talk about. And I found it the other day. I found myself, I turned the news off for like 4 days, guys. And something happened in those 4 days. I realized the level of stress that is put on you when you consistently watch the media. It is so draining. And so I realized at that moment, I'd said it before on many occasions, that I was suffering from what is known as compassion fatigue. And compassion fatigue is a form of emotional or physical exhaustion that can result in prolonged exposure to other people's suffering. And so I know for a fact that I am currently suffering from compassion fatigue, and it is draining every day, especially if you're watching TV. They're throwing something else. Another crisis is coming down the pipes, and people are afraid. People are just not happy, and I've known several people to go and get counseling because they think it's something else when it's actually compassion fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too. We talked about this before. All the different stuff that's going on in the news. Like for example, we've had the war with Ukraine and Russia for 4 years, but all of a sudden we can throw in what's going on in Iran, and everyone forgets about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, even though that's still, going on.
It is so Sorry, yeah, that's my phone. Sorry, guys, I'm multitasking here. But again, it really beats you up. Again, 4 years, Ukraine and Russia. Nobody can tell you what the hell that's about right now.
No, not at all.
People are saying Ukraine is winning. Others are saying Russia is winning. The markets continue to go as the media says, quite frankly. And then you hit the button with a 12-day war, Iran and Israel. And Iran is, it's amazing. I was talking to a good friend of mine who is Iranian, and he still has a lot of close relatives in Iran. He's been here most of his life. And the leadership in Iran turned off the internet last week for about 5 days.
Yeah.
And this is what I hear people say, really stupid shit, about the comparison to the struggle in America and some of the countries across the world. So they turned the internet off. That's right around the time when Iran told the U.S. That we're going to send a bomb. We're going to just give you a heads up. We got to shoot a bomb. We're not trying to really hit the base, so we'll give you guys a chance to shoot it down. But we want to save face with our people and make our people feel like we're protecting them. So they shoot up this missile only to be shot down immediately as it came into the airspace. But again, the people in Iran they don't have access to know what's going on. They are driven by propaganda, and they turn the internet off on them. And so when you look at places like this, they are really truly in the dark ages without permission.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at Iran before, the 2000s, how normal of a country it was, and then a certain regime came in and completely twisted everything and turned everything around. Now they're all, the women have to wear certain clothing. It's just not the same. I think that what we've seen with Iran is, just like you said, this regime has basically kept them in the dark from the real world, their citizens.
It's interesting because in 1979, the Shah of Iran, the second Shah, Mohammad Reza, was removed by this regime, the Ayatollah. And let's be clear, many believe that our government had something to do with it. And so the Shah fled and went to Egypt, and later has spent the last 40 years in the United States. His children were educated here. Quite frankly, I think Mohammad Reza is waiting to return if that regime is overthrown. And it's interesting because you're right. They were moving in terms of the direction of a free state democracy. And all of a sudden in 1979, the Ayatollah Khomeini became the supreme leader, and they went back to Sharia law in many instances, and women covering up and women not having the ability to move. But so often with all of that, I think books don't bite. You know what I mean? And books don't bite, guys. And I think it's important when you want to have these conversations, just go read something, do some research. Don't let people tell you what's going on. Spend a few minutes. You got your phone in your hand. Most Americans got a phone within reaching distance of them at all times. Just go do a little research. This is a situation that a lot of people are afraid to speak on, Gonzo, JB, because they know that this is a different level of cancel if you speak against what's happening in this engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of what you were saying, a lot of young people now especially are starting to become more awake, let's say. Mm-hmm. They're finding things out. They're on their own because they're tired of the media. The media has always told them the same thing. Mm-hmm. And once they see one or two things that go against what the media has been telling them, they're like, wait a minute, why is this being told to me? And then once you start noticing, it's almost like you can't unsee it. So they start digging deeper and deeper. They go to other sources for either news or just information in general, and reading is another thing.
Right.
People are reading historical books from 1800s, 1900s, and realizing maybe the history we're being taught is not what actually happened.
Absolutely. And we're finding that every day because I talked to, again, of someone I know very well, and the Islamic people, they don't really support and they stand firmly against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. And Israel is bombing the IRGC, not the people of Iran. Mm-hmm. And when you understand that this is a long, really tumultuous engagement.
Yeah. And
to really engage in the conversation and talk about it eloquently, I think you people need to know, JB.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the news and stuff being depressing and other things like that, and not being able to really pick through things and doing your own research. What's interesting to see is that with younger people, you're starting to notice through TikTok, YouTube Shorts, even sometimes on Instagram, people are doing their own research, kind of promoting their own stuff and publishing content, and not focusing what the mainstream media is kind of forcing down your throat, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think there are a lot of pundits that are driving this narrative. I think the narrative is based in confusion and double talk. You got people like Whoopi Goldberg, who said something the other day that
on The View
that I thought was just the most ridiculous thing that could have been said.
It was.
But there are people out here who support this nonsense. And many of these people are people who are engaged without knowledge. And I'm drained by those people too. I ran into a young lady the other day, and I don't like to call people dumb, but she was dumb. And and it was just ridiculous what was coming out of her mouth, and you could tell that she was driving sound bites. Somebody said she's a regurgitator. Somebody had said something she heard, and she was mixing it up, and it was totally embarrassing because I'm sitting there with some guys who read, and it was just totally embarrassing. And I just think it's important that we stand down on a conversation. If you haven't done a little research, you got the Whoopi Goldberg clip.
I do, yeah.
This is really one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard by somebody who presents themselves as intelligent.
Let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
I'm sorry, but where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Hanging black people.
It is not even the same. I couldn't step foot wearing this outfit.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Listen, I'm sorry.
What, they look like
listen,
no, I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you, that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it.
Very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Okay, stop it right there. She is comparing the life of a black person in America to that of people in Iran, right?
Yeah.
And like, what is she being paid for? Is she being paid to drive a ridiculous narrative? Because every time she opens her mouth, something totally stupid comes out.
I think that's part of it. That's her whole job. She's getting paid to present talking points. But I think another thing, too, is she herself doesn't actually know what it's like to be a black person in America.
Absolutely, sir. You are 100% right. And I'm listening to Whoopi Goldberg the other day talk about white men. And I'm scratching my head when I'm watching Whoopi Goldberg talk about white men, because I don't ever recall Whoopi Goldberg being with a black man.
That's also true, yeah.
Every guy that she's been married to, from what I understand, JB, you can check it out.
Yeah.
It's been a white guy. And then she's talking about the struggle of black people and white. I guarantee you she probably doesn't have any black neighbors in her prestigious neighborhood.
No.
And it's amazing that we allow people like this to talk to us about what's happening in our communities when you have not been with us probably most of your life.
Well, anyone in Hollywood that would tell you what an average black person or an average white person or whoever, how they're living in America, it's not the case. They're in Hollywood. They're in their own bubble. They're pampered. They have everything given to them. They have everything handed to them. They live in their own world. So they can't tell you honestly how the average American in any part of the world or any part of the country lives.
But when you think about Whoopi Goldberg, I promise you, when she was born, her last name was not Goldberg. She became Goldberg by attaching herself through matrimony to someone of Jewish faith.
Yes.
Probably?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Pretty sure, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Jonathan Morris says, why is she still on TV?
Okay.
Oh, that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, again, her job, she has one job, is to throw out a ridiculous narrative. But she's not alone. There's another mulatto lady on that show, Sunny Hostin, who is also just as ridiculous in her commentary. But the question is, when you make comparisons to the life and the struggle of black people in this country to someone who is being controlled by a dictatorship led by a tyrant like the Khomeini, and when you turn the internet off on the whole country to set your narrative up, then ma'am, I don't know how you could say that with a straight face. But again, people are supporting people simply because they look like them. And I'm at a point right there, that is a part of my compassion fatigue struggle. These are people that we should have been canceled, especially the black community. There are so many idiots out here who are driving fake narratives. And I think black people have this attachment to each other. I'm not going to say anything about another black person. Well, guess what? The Don Miller Show, that ain't the type of show this is. So there's another clown, former congressman, who lost his job because he was an idiot, who was late for a meeting on the Hill, So he decided to pull the fire hydrant, Jamal Bowman. And this dude, so he loses his congressional seat, which he should have. He should have got censured. Loses the seat. Now he's a commentator. They're bringing him on network TV on CNN. And now listen to how dumb he is.
Catholic
And the
pro-life
problem
ministries
is
bombs.
we are not dealing
Catholic
with
pro-life ministries
America's
bombs. You're
original
right.
sin and its disease of hate and racism towards black and brown people and sexism towards women and anti-LGBTQ sentiment. We are not dealing with that. Your colleagues in the Republican Party do not hold each other accountable when it comes to the racism that comes from the party on a consistent basis.
Congressman, I mean, where are you on
You
the, where are
can't
the
be
assassination
calm about
attempts?
this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease.
I'm white, I can't comment on
Listen
it.
to what I'm
Is that
saying.
what
The
you're
reason
saying?
why heart disease and cancer
pretty
and
racist.
obesity
I can't
and
comment on it.
diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly
Stop
every
it right
day.
there. So he said being called a nigger, stay with me, is the reason why we suffer from obesity, heart disease, cancer, being called the N-word. Okay? He's got to be the dumbest. He's dumber than her, right?
Yeah.
Every rapper that I grew up with used that word every day and all the time. I grew up with that word. It was just another word. Every rapper consistently says that. You walk down the street, people speak to each other with, "What's up, man?" Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is the reason why we're suffering from chronic diseases, because we're struggling with being called the N-word. We're killing ourselves, sir. Okay? We're killing ourselves, Mr. Idiot, sir. This is the most ridiculous nonsense that I consistently see coming out of these people who are getting checks to go to microphones.
Man.
I'm sorry I said the N-word,
No,
but I can say that. Don't y'all?
I'm
It's your
not
show.
offended.
It's your show.
I can't say it, but
Don't y'all? Nobody else say that.
but I'll
we won't.
I'll tell you, I mean, we've seen the victim mentality
Yep.
increasing more and more over the years with a lot of people in America. And I think this is another example of victimhood, where now they're blaming mere words for the reason why people are behaving a certain way or why their lives are a certain way. No one's taking accountability anymore. Just in this example or just in general, no one's taking accountability for their own actions.
Yeah, let me just say this, right?
Yeah.
So you got a former congressman, Jamal Bowman, from New York, who really should know the reason why many of these chronic diseases is at the level in which it is in many of these urban communities. First of all, sir, let's talk about, before you talk about the N-word being the cause, you got to talk about food deserts. You got to talk about health care. You got to talk about education. But you go right to the N-word because that is what they need you to say. No accountability on the people who have absolutely taken advantage of many of these communities by not providing these tax-paying citizens in these urban communities with the same resources. Food desert. You know what? Everybody should know what a food desert is, right? Most of these urban communities, even the communities in which he represented, are food deserts. No, but food deserts and inability to get health care, no, that ain't the issue. The issue, sir, is the N-word. And every time you call somebody the N-word, they come down with a chronic disease. What kind of BS is that? But this is what is happening, and people are drained by this victimhood conversation, and people are making money to keep it in the dialogue.
It's almost like he's reading from a script because he's so determined to use specific language or verbiage and then starts driving it home while increasing his tone and start to yell.
I'm a
and
black
drive
man, right,
the
yeah,
emotions,
yeah, right.
get everyone stirred up at home as well as block out the other commentators. There was quite a bit of them on there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, you
while
almost
he's
can't
yelling, he
understand.
just kind of, makes all this noise and prevents everyone else from having their own voice, too.
Yeah.
So.
It's like it comes out of, like, whoever booked him on that show, they go down the list and you say, oh, Jamal Bowman, that's the guy who lost this race, okay, his congressional race. Yeah, he also pulled the alarm at the Capitol because he was late for his vote. Oh, yeah, he's a great person to sit out in front of everybody to spew nonsense. The problem is, at what point do we raise our hands as American citizens and say enough's enough, man. You know, there's so many people who live in misinformation, okay, and miseducation, that it gets to a point that people like me, I just want to go sometimes and just like, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm just go sit and smoke, right? The fact is, I really believe that every now and then somebody hears my conversation and it may turn them to seek knowledge, man. The fact that there's so many people who talk a big game, and it's amazing in my community, black people, I'm going to just stay with you guys for a minute. We vote for people who don't even vote for us. They go to D.C. and they go to these state capitals and they vote the way they want to vote, not the way the constituency, how the constituency could benefit. They vote the way they want to vote because they know, unlike many of these white communities where you have these groups that follow the votes of everybody they vote for, like Gonzo, okay? You ain't white, but, you know, you do the same thing.
Close enough.
Okay? What I would do, when I give somebody my vote, I check and see how they're voting periodically. Nobody in my community does it. And this is how we get these people like Bowman and many of these other politicians that go there and have their own focus and their own agenda.
Yeah. I mean, I think voting's been a huge problem in terms of like, okay, I'm just going to go R down the line or I'm going to go D down the line. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why a lot of people stay in office is because, listen, they've been there for 20 years. Their name's always on the ballot.
Yeah.
I'm a guy that's a staunch Republican. I'm going to vote, red down the ballot no matter what.
Right.
But I think what really needs to happen is we really need to wake people up and say, listen, things can actually change if you vote these people out. They've been in here for 20, 30, 40 years, and look where that's gotten you. Why can't we all just collectively say, hey, it's time for a change. Let's get some new blood in, people that are actually going to change this country for the better and get the dinosaurs out of here.
And what we did for the 2024 election was we had a shared document where we dumped everyone's names in there and just kind of went through name by name, listed their accomplishments, their background, their history, to give everyone kind of a eye-opener, so to speak, to kind of have their own choice instead of just voting down party lines.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, and when I look at this, right, in the last 60 years, we've had more than 55 elected officials die in office. Not in statehood offices, state office, but in Congress and Senate, right?
Is that from the heart problems and the stress? And
I'm being called the N-word, right? Only a few of them were N's too, right?
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is this. It's time for a change.
Yeah.
And we have to be comfortable saying enough's enough. The problem is there are certain lobbies in this country that have more power than people would imagine. This war between Israel and Iran is about as political as you've ever seen a war. This is a political engagement. But it's at the hands of a guy like Bibi Netanyahu. Anybody know his history?
Yeah.
No.
Basically, as long as he stays in war, he stays in power.
He stays in power. Okay, and again, right?
Isn't he the longest running prime minister of Israel?
He's got to be.
Well, given the history of Israel, it's not hard to do.
Yeah, right. It's not that old. But the point is, he was in trouble, as the old people say, reckless before this all happened. He was indicted almost, wasn't he? You know? So, again, we have to look deeper into the conversation. Look, I don't like to see any country treat its people badly. Iran has a history of that. Iran has a history of murderous events. So I get it at some point. But let's get to Iran real quick. Hillary Clinton said if she becomes president, there's audio of this, that she would attack Iran. You could go down the list of people who have said this over the years, right? Donald Trump hits him, and now he's a horrible person.
Right. Impeach him.
You follow me?
Even though we wanted you to.
The hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy for the people who don't have knowledge is even worse, right? I was talking to a lady the other day, and I wanted to tell her she was stupid, but ignorance is curable. Stupidity is forever, right? And when you're talking to a stupid person, especially a middle-aged stupid person, it's highly unlikely they're going to be
gonna change.
anything until they go home to their maker but stupid, right? You can't save it at that point. Well, she was talking about Donald Trump not getting permission from Congress. We hit Syria. We hit Iraq. Go down the list of Obama and Biden and the engagement that we had, and nobody got permission from Congress.
Right. We were talking about this yesterday, and really he just has 48 hours to inform Congress of what's going on, whether it's before or after. But yeah, like you said, it goes back to Obama did this, Bush did this, whatever the case is. When Donald Trump does it, this is the first time in history that no other president has done this before. He's, basically Hitler. It's the same thing that we've seen over the past 8 years, really.
But we hit Libya, right? We hit Kosovo. Remember? Anybody remember that?
Yeah, Bill Clinton.
Did anybody get permission?
No.
No.
Because that defeats the whole purpose of a surprise attack anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's heavy.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm watching this, and look, I believe that these tyrant states should be dealt with. I'm not defending any of that. But I think if we, politics is so prevalent in the society today that we can hear somebody say one thing and they spend their entire career in office and don't touch it. Then somebody comes along and finally says, hey, what's this button? You know what I mean? And pushes the damn button, right? And deals with the situation that everybody's teased about dealing with, and it makes this a bad person. I just think that American people need to come to terms with, we are a very uninformed electorate. Would you concur?
Oh, I agree. I think the problem, too, is, like you said, when we're talking about this conversation and you say something either slightly positive or slightly negative about Iran, for example, if you say something positive, it's like, oh, okay, so you hate Israel, you're pro-Iran.
Yeah.
You say something negative, it's like, oh, what, so you hate Iranians? We can't have a conversation in America without someone freaking out and labeling you as a certain person. But like what we're trying to do is say, listen, Iran has done this, and they've also done this. Israel has done good things, and Israel has done bad things, whatever the case may be.
Right.
People can't sit for more than 10 seconds and listen to you without going, yep, you're racist.
And that's the conversation I was just mentioning to you guys the other night. I'm sitting with this lady. Shout out to Real Rap Kane, who showed significant composure. And she's telling, if you didn't vote for Joe Biden, that means you're a Trumper. If you don't vote Democrat, then you're a Trumper.
Black or white.
Yeah, and it's like, and everybody's looking at her, and it's all black people, and they're looking at her like, who is she with? Okay? And the problem is, that's the uninformed electorate that we speak of, right? And they just go every year and they press a button because of D or R. And until we get away from that, but the only way we get away from that is people got to seek knowledge. It's amazing when you see this rush to support without knowledge. And I go all the way back when Mohammad Reza, the Shah, was removed from Iran in 1979, and there was a wonderful piece on 60 Minutes, and I watched it. I'm at 79. I was pretty young, but I always wanted to learn, and I'll never forget this piece. And the other day, I came across a clip, Mohammad Reza, the Shah of Iran, right after he was removed.
Not entirely, but I think even a little too much, even for Israel interests.
You think the Jewish lobby in the United States is too powerful for the interests of Israel?
I think so. Sometimes they are disserving the interests of Israel because they're pushing around too many people.
How do you mean pushing around?
Well, pressuring. They have many means at their disposal. They are putting up pressure on many, many people. And at the end, I don't think that it will even help Israel.
Why, if this is true, why would the President of the United States pay attention to that lobby?
They are strong.
Strong in what sense?
They are controlling many things.
Controlling what?
Newspapers, medias,
Your Majesty.
banks, finances, and I'm going to stop there.
Well, now
Okay,
wait just a
now
second.
watch this. He stopped.
Yeah.
He's talking about the Jewish lobby and the power behind it. Now, this is the Shah of Iran, who left there, went to Egypt for a short time, came to the United States. He still resides here. His children were educated at colleges in the United States. He is awaiting to return to his homeland if the Ayatollah is removed. And I can assure you, if the Ayatollah is removed, our country will have a significant hand in getting him back to his homeland where he could take charge, Gonzo, correct?
Yeah. Well, I think, too, that as an example, but there's so many things that the United States has been involved in that even we don't know about. All the secrets, the intelligence agencies, they're all intertwined at the end of the day. And like we were talking about earlier with this war, I think, with Iran and Israel has really exposed how much of a stage it is. Meaning, like you said, each side is informing the other, saying, hey, listen, we're going to attack this base. Make sure you're ready, essentially. Mm-hmm. So it goes back to the world being a stage and that all the intelligence agencies are working together at the same time. And realistically, is there anything that the United States is not involved in somehow?
You know, it's interesting because Jonathan just said everyone needs to read the Bible and learn the prophecy of Jeremiah. Iran is Odom, and God has a plan for them all the way up to the last day. Well, Jonathan, everybody don't read the Bible. And most people who read the Bible are low-informed Christians, okay? And they don't even know what they're reading. If you do the numbers, and nobody grew up in church like I grew up in church. Most people reading the Bible have no idea what they're reading. But they attach themselves to an ideology, and they ride it out. Mm-hmm. So when I ran into somebody the other day who's telling me about just what Jonathan posted, they don't know anything about either one of these countries. They don't know the politics of this engagement. They just know the Bible speaks to this in Jeremiah.
Yeah.
I think even if you read the Bible, you can read the King James Version, okay, or whatever version you read. You have to understand history just as you understand the Bible.
Well, I think a big problem people have when reading the Bible is context, too. Oh, and a lot of times you have someone say, oh, well, the Bible in this verse says this, this, and this. But they didn't read, like, the 2 verses beforehand, right, which would have given you a clear story about what they're actually talking about. And, like, I think we talked about this before. JB said that the Bible, when it took place, obviously is thousands and thousands of years old.
Absolutely.
So the context is going to be probably different than the way we understand it in today's world, which is a very drastically different world. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, and like you said, people, they read the Bible. Do they understand what they're reading? Are they conceptualizing it properly? And there's many different ways to interpret it at the end of the day, too.
Unless you sit down with scholars, the common man is going to be lost reading the Bible.
Yeah.
Unless you sit down with someone who has spent a career studying this, then you're going to be wasting your time even in the conversation. Mm-hmm. Because somebody told me, you know, King James Version or the NIV, I call that the non-inspired version.
True. Yeah,
okay.
Very.
And
it's watered down.
Yeah. And you know, let's look at King James. I hate to say this. King James was a homosexual, and he stood by and watched his mom be beheaded. So my concerns is when I'm reading stuff, I want to know the historical facts. Mm-hmm. I want to know the context in which it is being presented. Because I got curveball conned by the Bible as a 9-year-old kid when I didn't read Malachi. And the pastor hit me with, will a man rob God? And I put all my money in church. And then I found out later that wasn't being referred to me as a parishioner with $20 in my pocket. But I think we got to seek knowledge. So a lot of people in this country have attached themselves to this conversation based on their biblical or their Christian beliefs. I just want people to understand that it's important to know the history of these regions how this all came about. And then you could have a real conversation. But just to stand on the side of the road and point fingers, let me just say this, because I'm torn right now, Gonzo. And I said this to Shannon Burke. Shout out to Shannon Burke. I said this to Shannon Burke and to Real Rap Kane. I am torn right now. Not because I'm a media person, but what is happening in Gaza is genocide.
Yeah.
And if I can't defend genocide, just as I can't defend the killings of Christians in Darfur that nobody's talking about. Over 100,000 Christians have been murdered in Darfur. And if you go down the list of genocide happening in the world, it is amazing that the media has shifted away from it to this engagement.
Yeah.
Genocide is genocide. If innocent civilians are being murdered, the world stage should be talking about it.
Exactly.
This place called the United Nations that we own, let's be clear, because it ain't the United, it's us. Let's be clear. The United Nations is us. But it's like, how do you pick one place over another? And so the crisis in the world is a crisis. But when I'm listening to, I'm watching genocidal acts and people being slaughtered, I think we should be talking about everywhere this is happening.
Right.
If you're a Christian, I consider myself a Christian. So I think that wherever this type of behavior is going on, it should be presented to the people and talked about.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem with the media, is that they're able to focus on one issue and one specific aspect of it and show the masses that, and hide, like, for example, genocide against Christians is almost never talked about.
Right.
And that has happened.
Absolutely. Over and over
2,000 plus years.
Absolutely. Right.
And you want to talk about essentially one of maybe the first genocide, the Bolshevik Revolution, 20 plus million Christians killed.
Right.
And this was before the Holocaust.
Absolutely.
And no one's ever taught that part of history. No one's ever really taught about what's going on in Syria and other parts of the world with Christians there.
Right. Absolutely.
And they don't know that there really is a huge Christian population in the Middle East. And there's churches all over the place. But they're not welcome in a lot of these countries.
You know, I just think knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Frederick Douglass said that so eloquently. Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. And I think we should be seeking knowledge at every level, at the highest level. Because it's amazing to me when we as Americans have flags hanging in front of our homes, but we let somebody else take our focus out of our country. When we allow Pride Month to be focused more on than Poverty Month, and the fact that we have starving people in this country. We have 38,000 plus homeless veterans sleeping on the streets of this country. You look at the reading and math scores of students in urban communities. It's historically low. It's at the lowest level that it's ever been, right? And so I think when you know better, you should do better. I am suffering from compassion fatigue to such a point. Words cannot express how much I don't care. I am interested in what's happening in my community, in my country right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I get it, you know, because I pray and I call myself a Christian. I am concerned with the broader scale. But right now, even in the Bible, and some of these biblical scholars, fake-ass biblical scholars I call them, may know where this came from, but something in the Bible said charity begins at home and spreads abroad, right?
Yeah.
We have given charity at home like a kick down the street, and it seems like we are more interested in going abroad to do good work than to do good work in our own communities.
Exactly. No, I think that's one of the biggest issues that the United States has faced for such a long time, is that the focus seems to always be on everyone else, all these other countries, what's going on there. But what about the people that are dying in this country? What about the people that are in poverty in this country? The issues we have here, the veterans is always a group that's brought up. They're not taken care of, and they should be one of the people that are taken care of the most, considering how much they've sacrificed for our right to be stupid. and, screw around.
You think about this. Right into Sudan. Sudan is at the highest level of famine than they've been in 40 years. That war is raging out of control. Yet, how often do you see that on the network news? There's so many other things going on. The crisis of poverty in this country. We have a serious affordable housing crisis in America. The average working person in this country can't get a place to live. And yet, we continue to turn our focus in support of people who sneak into our country. If you come across the border without doing the proper paperwork, you are a criminal because you have broken the law. Yet this country is engaged in a program to fund these people and provide housing for these people, not for the Americans whose families built and paid into this system, but for someone who has come across the border illegally. And then you hear these people say, well, who's going to pick the strawberries? Hey, guess what? We ain't to the strawberries yet. We say, if you come in here wrong, and then I see these people been here 20 years, Gonzo, never decide to fill out.
Yeah.
At what point after 20 years of being in this country, you didn't say, damn, Jose, we should fill out paperwork?
Well, especially in, 2016, when Trump came along and said, hey, we're going to crack down on this.
Yeah, you think that would scare you enough, right?
Yeah, then 8 years later, you're still like, well, I'm here, I guess, so maybe this time we're still good.
I think it's like pushing the envelope to the point where if it's not being enforced, they'll never do it.
But again,
Right.
and I was sitting with a lady the other day. I don't know if I told you guys this story. And she asked me why black people weren't supporting en masse the immigrants. And I'm like, I'm sitting at the vineyard, man. I'm sitting
Was this
there.
person?
She was a white lady, woke
Yeah.
white. She was a woke white.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's sitting there with me, and she's like, why aren't black people? First she tried to give me a side-eye compliment. Oh, my gosh, I listened to you before. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. She's like, why aren't black people supporting the immigrants? I said, you mean the illegals?
Would she try to do the whole, well, black people were immigrants too?
She did.
Oh, my
I
God.
said, yeah. And I said, no, man, we were imports. Okay? It's a big-ass difference. We came in shackles and
Without a
chains.
choice.
We came in the bottom of boats, right? So please don't get that confused, and try not to say that around anybody else, okay? But again, the focus is gone away from education and helping people. I just think if more people understood, it probably could be better. The fact is, the giant narrative is to look away. And they continue to not only create narratives, they continue to manufacture.
Yeah.
That's the word I want to use.
Manufacture. But to a point where now if you hear an opinion that differs
From the narrative.
what the narrative that you've been fed,
Right.
you start freaking out and you're like, wait, that didn't happen.
Right.
That's not right.
I didn't hear it on the news.
Exactly.
Again, and the problem is, look, I got to have compassion fatigue. I'm going to say a prayer for everybody who, it's amazing when you ask somebody like me who saw it up close and personal. I'm in my 60s. Who saw it up close and personal. Who talked to people who looked like me, who had water hoses sprayed on them. Who talked to my mama as a kid who fled Mississippi because she had to. To talk to old people who couldn't drink water out of a fountain just because of the way they look. To talk to some of the almost 680,000 black men who fled the South due to harsh Jim Crow and lynching situations, who fled the South and went north. And I know so many of them who went north in the 60s and late 50s, right? And to tell me, Don Miller, who's a 60-year-old plus man, that I should be concerned about somebody who have snuck into this country and whose benefits are greater than any benefits that we got coming from the South to the North as Americans who came here on slave ships, foundational black American right here. Okay, we didn't come from an island. We came here on slave ships, and my people built the land and harvest the land. To ask me to give a damn about somebody who left Mexico or Guatemala or Honduras to sneak into the country, or many of the Chinese 20-year-old men who've come into this country, to ask me to give a damn? You got me effed up. I could care less if they all got sent back. That ain't for me to care about. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to address, which nobody still has, okay? Nobody has addressed, and it's frightening when you see these black Congress people who are marching with these illegal ass Mexicans and Hondurans, right? Who are snuck into this country, and they are holding flags of the country they fled. Yet you got people like Maxine Waters and some of these other black people. If the country was that bad, then why are you carrying the flag?
Exactly.
You should be burning the flag.
Exactly.
But instead, they're burning the flag of the country that's giving them everything.
So,
absolutely.
What'd you tell her? What'd you answer back?
I told her, I said, ma'am, I don't want you to say this to nobody else because this is ignorant. And I don't know at what level of education you went to, but black people were never immigrants. We were imports.
Was she shocked or?
She looked like she knew it, but she just tried to kind of play that game.
Yeah.
But come on. My mama, my
almost
great,
like a little sympathy thing where it's like, hey, like,
we had the same struggle. That's just like that whole nonsense with the LGBT. The gay guy told me one time their struggle was just like the black struggle for civil rights. No, because if you don't tell nobody, you throw one in the esophagus, ain't nobody gonna know. Okay, and that's exactly what I told him. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, stop it. Your struggle being gay. Look, and I'm fine. If you want to be gay, I'm fine with the LGBT community, not the T. I ain't fine with the T. They already know I'm anti-T. Okay? God made you in a certain way. Okay? So I stand against the T. Counsel me if you like. But my point is, stop trying to attach your struggle to a people who really got treated badly for no reason. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me I should march with a person who snuck into a country. If I sneak my black ass into any country, it ain't going to end properly. And I better not carry the flag of the United States if I sneak into another country.
Yeah.
And I'm an American. So when I see these black politicians, who, might I add, didn't stand for the number of Haitians who were on TPS, temporary protective status, who should have been in this country because the writing says they are being sent back to a war-torn country that does not even have a government. So if you send a Haitian back to Haiti right now that is controlled by warlords,
yeah,
Mexico got a whole ass president. Honduras got a whole ass, Venezuela got a shit show, but it's a whole ass president, right?
Yeah.
You're sending people back to Haiti, and none of these black politicians have raised their hands and said, whoa, we can't send them back there. Oh, they look like us. We can't send them back there. There's no government. And you send them back, and they're on TPS, temporary protective status. Man, don't ask me about no damn Mexican. I'll cut my own grass. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate.
But the problem is, I mean, just like you said, there's a talking point of we can't send these people back. These people belong here now. And then you bring up the Haitians, for example, and it's like, well, we have to send them back, or we can't send them back. It's like, why can't we just have a conversation like a normal person and say, listen, this is a situation that requires certain attention, and this is a completely different situation that requires a different form of attention. It's not like all immigrants are not the same. All citizens are not the same. Everyone is required a different sort of care or a different sort of...
They're mutually exclusive, essentially.
Yeah, basically. But the problem with what we have in this country today is everything is just so generalized. You know, with all the topics we talk about, it's either you're on the red side or you're on the blue side. It's either, black or it's white or whatever.
But it's interesting. Shout out to PJ Brown, who's watching the show. Jonathan Morris. Hey, Jonathan. The interesting thing, PJ just said they are the next group of Democrat voters. And you are 100% correct, my friend. Yeah. This is the great turning point for the Democrats to get as many of these people into the country as they can. And when they get into the country, you look at all the states that are giving illegals driver's license. And as soon as you get a driver's license in many of these states, you get a voter card. You follow me?
Yeah.
You get a voter registration card. So here you are, you sneak into the country, they give you a driver's license, and you get a voter registration card. Of course, you're going to be voting in these sanctuary cities, Democrat. So this is what this is all about.
Well, because they come to them and say, hey, listen, if you don't vote for this person, your benefits are going to get taken away, or you're just going to get kicked out completely.
Right.
So it's all a game.
Yeah, it is a game, but I just want people to be informed. But please, my heart bleeds. Well, not really. It's sad for what's happening to many of the people across the world. But I just kind of want to deal with it, what's near me right now.
Exactly.
My compassion fatigue doesn't cross certain it's kind of right here in the country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I see too many people every day as I drive the highways and byways of the city in which I live and the community in which I live that are struggling. It's hard for me to attach myself. A lady asked me the other day, aren't you going to send some money No, I ain't sending no money. No. I'm going to take, if I'm going to give, I'm going to take some money and I'm going to go and give it so where I can go back and check on it later to see what my money is doing. There are a lot of people who need help in the communities in which we live, Gonzo.
Was that lady also woke as well?
She's a woke white, yes.
WW.
Never fails.
Beware woke whites. I had that T-shirt, Gonzo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best T-shirts.
It's just funny, though, because I don't think people mean any harm. I think people are lazy intellectually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the media's whole purpose is to tell you how to think and to keep you so distracted that you don't have the energy to take a couple more steps and look deeper into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they tell you how to think. That gets ingrained into your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you bring up a different talking point, they're like, what?
Yeah.
And that's not
right.
true.
I'm also saying the other way around, where people are so infatuated with the news that that's all they ever care about. So, like you said before, with a narrative, if you deviate from that, all of a sudden it's like you don't read enough. You're not informed.
Right.
Instead
Right,
of being,
because I saw it in the news and you just said something that's different.
yeah.
Right.
So it's like you seem dumb to them, but in reality, they didn't do their own research.
And I think it's important. I can tell you right now, if you go look in the back seat of my car, there's probably 7 or 8 books. I love books, and I love to give books. Books is like one of the things I love giving people more than anything else. I love helping people. But knowledge, again, makes a man unfit to be a slave. And as long as you have become caught up or sucked into the narrative that's presented, then you're a slave to that. You're an intellectual slave. If you don't think it's important to seek knowledge and understanding, the Bible talks about knowledge and understanding. I don't know that scripture either, but I know it says somewhere in there, right? Then it's amazing because I watched church last Sunday. I watched like 7 churches for one reason. I wanted to see what preachers, especially in the black community, were talking about Israel and Iran. And it was amazing to me that I only saw 2 guys talk about it. And the reason is I don't think the leadership in that group knows what it's all about.
So it's better to stay quiet than to say something that might be stupid.
Yes. So I think information is important. The way we find information, disbursement of information. And we just have so many people that are intellectually lazy. Mm-hmm. And they don't, I got too many other things to do. I'd rather do something else than try to, especially in a leadership position. You're in a leadership position. You should want to, have more information to share with those who are following you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, even something, I think the last thing you want to do is be put in a position where you say something from an uninformed standpoint and then you look stupid.
Well, that to me is frightening. I'll just shut up and come back later. Right?
Well, it's safer to say I don't know.
I don't know.
Than
right.
to say something that is completely false.
So for those who have been following the show and listening to the show today, we thank you so much. I want to shout out some people that have always been with me while I do this broadcast, man. Some of the people, quasi-sponsors that just are good people that they're supported and don't ever back down. Be like, Don said something crazy. We don't want to be a part of that anymore. I want to shout out my good friends over at Casa Leon Jewelers in beautiful Lake Mary, Florida. They are just the best people, man. I love you so much. It's like they're my family, and they're just really solid people. And so they have always been a big part of what we do on the Don Miller Show. And who else I have over there?
Shout out the Vineyard, best place to.
My little brother. My little brother,
Can't
Robbie.
forget.
The Vineyard Lake Mary. Have you had the meatloaf?
Oh yeah,
Have
that's
you had
the go-to.
meatloaf? Yeah, the meatloaf is the go-to. The
Gonzo
Vineyard-
likes the hot dogs, though.
Oh, no. The hot
splitter.
dog is
The
excellent.
splitter is great.
Yes, yeah. The hot dog is amazing. It is what kind of meat is that? It's high-end meat. It's called.
Yeah, it's like Wagyu.
Wagyu. It's a
Wagyu
Wagyu
splitter.
hot dog. Have you tried it?
I have not.
Oh, you bougie. He's so
missing out,
bougie,
yeah.
man. Who else we got?
Where'd you get that cigar from?
I got this cigar from Corona's Cigar Company. And shout out to Angel, Jeff, and Tanya, who are great people. Matt Denny, he's kind of special, but he all right. Again, Corona Cigar Company. Again, thank you so much. Listen, we're going to get this queued up. I will be back with Gonzo and JB next week. We are in the presence of a shift right now. I love coming back to this studio. I was here for a long time.
We love having you.
Yeah, man, because I could smoke in the studio and I could do what I do
Relax,
in the studio,
kick your
man.
feet back.
My feet back.
Absolutely.
In the studio. But feel free to drop us a line, don@thedonmillershow.com. Catch me and follow me. Subscribe and like The Don Miller Show. But listen, if you are in the Central Florida area, this Saturday I am going to be at Morganic Meats in beautiful Lake Mary, Florida. Morganic Meats is in Lake Mary, Florida, 101 Country Club Road. You guys know where that is, right?
Yeah.
Next to the Lighthouse Seafood Joint. And I'll be over there with Jonathan for about an hour, just having a good time. He's going to be barbecuing some great ribs and, of course, tomahawk steaks. So come by, see me, Morganic Meats, 101 Country Club Road, Lake Mary, Florida. I'm going to go see Jonathan, hang out. Real Rap Kane is going to come by. I hope Gonzo and JB come by in that fancy-ass truck you drive around.
We'll do
in.
our best.
We'll come.
Okay? Again, thank you so much. Listen, anything else?
I think we're great. That was an awesome show.
Subscribe and like The Don Miller Show. Hit me on if you want to send me an inbox, just inbox me on any of the platforms. But subscribe and like. We really need your support. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
From the heart of Chicago to his name up in lights, Don Miller is live every Thursday night. He's bold, he's real, no filters, no shade. When hits the mic, the truth gets laid. Don's in the building, his swag so tight. Check your feelings, he's exposing all the lies. Every Thursday at 8, his voice takes the stage. The man's got soul like a record with age.